and get their food.
Just to the side of it, so you don't walk in. Sure.
Hello, everybody. Tonight, as we're welcoming our final speaker for the spring semester, we are also saying a grateful farewell to two people who have been central to our Science Monday series. Dennis Anderson, the chair of our Jersey Shore Sierra group, is moving to a nice shore community further south. And Pat Dillon, professor of biology here at Brookdale, who has been with us throughout years of the Science Monday, is taking a well-earned retirement. And she has earned that, so if you can all, Pat, if you can please stand. And let's have a round of applause. Pat has made this possible for years with her hospitality here at Brookdale and to the students who have attended this, and to make it a time of nourishment for their minds and souls who attend, and also extra credit for coming here, and we hope that that will continue. And with her colleague, Tim Macaluso, we really appreciate all that they do and have done for Brookdale and for Science Monday and the students here. And tonight, we have with us a naturalist who is very highly respected throughout the state and who has shown so many people the wonders around us, which, as our intuition tells us, as well as study after study, that we have an affinity for nature, which E.O. Wilson called biophilia, and that being outdoors is crucial for our well-being. Our speaker tonight, Lindsay McNamara, puts that into practice in spades. A Jersey native, she earned her bachelor's in environmental studies at Montclair State, as well as master's in public and organization relations. And so she has remained Jersey through and through. And in working with the American Littoral Society, she has been essential for her knowledge and her guide to the birds of the Jersey Shore, which she is continuing to put into practice through her tours with her company, Beachy Birder Adventures, and later on you can get a sticker from Beachy Bird Adventures here and her card with the QR code. A couple of years ago, I was pretty much a novice to birds, appreciating them, but not really understanding everything about each species and the unique sounds they make, which, according to the acoustic niche hypothesis, every bird has a unique sound within its environment. And so you can tell everything in every bird through the sounds that it makes. And on a walk with her through Sandy Hook a couple of years ago, I learned that birds have their own dialects. Aside from their usual language, they also have dialects. And so white-throated sparrows, depending on which one you are and where you're from, have different ways of expressing their sound in their acoustic niche. And so just as if you are Spanish speaking, your dialect might vary as a function of where you grew up and learned to speak it. You are fortunate in taking a bird walk to have Lindsay McNamara as your interpreter. Christopher Clark of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has said that all of nature is singing. We just stopped listening. So Lindsay shows us the cure for that we may still stop to listen to the sounds of nature that reveal the biodiversity that is still remaining for us to protect. And so we are lucky tonight to have us with us, our guide, Lindsay McNamara. Thank you, Lindsay.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the pizza. That's very exciting. So my name is I'm Lindsay all day. So I'm Lindsay McNamara. It's so nice to see you all. This is going to be fairly informal. We're just going to have fun, okay? I know it's like a beautiful, beautiful night. I think it's the best night of the year, and you guys are all in here. So I really, really appreciate you coming out. I hope you learned something, and I hope the next time that it's a beautiful, beautiful night like this, you are outside looking and listening for birds. So my name is Lindsay McNamara. This is Birdy Jerzy. Next time somebody says Dirty Jerzy, you just tell them it's actually Birdy Jerzy instead, and see what happens. But I have loved birds since I was 9 years old. I saw my first great blue heron, and it was over. And so I've been birding ever since, and I would love for you all to come with me. But you do not have to be an ornithologist to come out on a beachy birder adventure. If you're here and you're mildly interested in birds, congratulations, you're a birder, you did it. You don't need a fancy coat or a field guide or special shoes or any of that. You just need a love of birds. And so I'm so happy that you're here. And we're going to go over some spots across the Garden State for you to bird, if you so choose. We're going to talk about why those spots are great spots for birds, maybe discuss a little bit of the birds that you might find there too, with some facts, because why not? And then we'll go over a couple of ways that you can help protect birds through bird banding and other sciences. So again, this is super informal, so you don't have to wait until the end. If you have a question, please just raise your hand and we can kind of take them as they come. No big deal. All right, cool. Also, pet peeve of mine is when someone shows a picture of a bird and they don't tell you what it is. So we're going to go over every bird species that's on the slides because that's fun, right? So the really 90s fab double choker bird is a killdeer. They are named because the sound that they make sounds like killdeer, killdeer, killdeer. It's very hard to say. I didn't name them, but that's its name. It's in the plover family. It's a shorebird. They are a shoreless shorebird, and so you can find them. You'll see the picture. It's in grass, right? So you don't usually see a shorebird in grass fields, but with a killdeer you can. And it's another reminder that there's no definitely in nature, right? The answer is always in ecology, it depends. And so this is our shoreless shorebird. And then the small little guy, that's a pied-billed grebe. Grebe is a grebe, it's not a duck. So the more you know. All right. Okay, so first things first, you do not need a Yellowstone or Yosemite moment to see nature. You can go, that's great. But nature is everywhere. I live in an apartment in Long Branch, and all of these photos are from my apartment complex. So this is my favorite neighbor. I like birds better than I like people. My favorite neighbor is this Merlin falcon, which is on the left. We have 3 falcons in New Jersey. We have the peregrine falcon, which is the largest falcon, the Merlin, which is right here, and then we also have the American kestrel. So this is one of our falcons in New Jersey that, again, is right outside my window in Long Branch. This is a yellow-crowned night heron on the top there with the red eye and the yellow crown. This was an early migrant, which was really exciting. If anyone's familiar with Jackson Woods, which you may not think, Jackson Woods is a hot spot for birds if you pass it on 36, but it is. And birds use what we give them, right? So the more that we take habitat away, the more birds are going to use any green space that they have available, right? This is also known as like the Central Park effect. So you have so many migrants that drop into Central Park in the city because it's the green space that they can go to, right? So that happens in smaller scales in pocket parks all across the country. And so Jackson Woods is one of those places where these birds go. And so that's a yellow-crowned night heron in Jackson Woods. And also in Jackson Woods, this is a red-headed woodpecker, not to be confused with the red-bellied woodpecker that also has a red head. Again, I didn't name them. But this bird is like a flying checkerboard. It's really amazing. And the holes on that tree are actually made by a different woodpecker called the yellow-bellied sapsucker, which are nature's engineers. They actually drill two different types of wells in trees. They go horizontal and vertical. One is to drip the sap, and the other is to eat the sap. So the next time that somebody calls you a bird brain, you should tell them thank you, because what they're doing is really incredible, right? So again, nature is everywhere. You don't need to go anywhere. I highly encourage you to just walk outside in your neighborhood. I don't have a yard. I don't need a yard. They're all there. Okay. So I would also like to quickly mention that birding is great for your mental health. So if you are wondering, I'm mildly interested in going outside and seeing what I can see, but I wonder what else would happen in addition to seeing birds. You'll feel better. So there's a ton of science. Well, this is Science Monday, right? There's a ton of science around the correlation between positive mental health and hearing bird song. So even if you can't identify the birds that are they're like individual calls, just going outside and listening to birds, it has a really, really big calming effect on all of us. It keeps you focused and in the moment. You can kind of escape. You got a final, you got some bills due, you can put them away for a little bit. You can get off your screen. You can get away from the news if you need to. And just kind of eliminate distractions. If you've heard of like flow, right, a state of flow when you kind of don't realize time is elastic and you kind of like lose yourself in the task that you're doing, birding for me is flow, right? And so that's why I'm up here. I would like to share that with you all. Again, there are so many benefits to birding. It reduces depression and anxiety, stress like we talked about. It's a great way to just build a routine and start your day. There's a social connectedness aspect too, because you can talk to other bird nerds, and there's a whole community of us. We're pretty fun. We're like really nerdy, but we're pretty fun. You can come out with us, and it's endlessly entertaining. I know that you're not supposed to anthropomorphize birds, right? Because we're scientists. But I do it anyway. And I make little stories up about all the little events that are happening in these bird lives, and I have a great time. So, all right. So where should we go, right? Where can we go? Louder or too loud? See, this is the problem with the microphone. I've never been told that I was quiet, So I'm going to hold. Is here better? I'm so sorry. I don't want anybody. We good? Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So, where can we go? We can go to Sandy Hook, right? I'm sure many of you may have been to Sandy Hook. It's fairly local, fairly close to here. I would highly encourage you to go to Lot M, as in Mary. There's a little fisherman's path, it's called. You have to work for it. It's about a mile in the sand out to the beach, to North Beach of Sandy Hook, but it's beautiful. And if you go at low tide, you can see a lot of shorebirds, like American oyster catchers and piping plovers, which are two of our endangered species of beach nesting birds in the state. And when you see the ropes, some of the areas of the beach that are roped off for these beach nesting birds, I just want you all to keep in mind that what these birds do, the males, all they do is they build a scrape. They go like this in the sand. And he makes 3. And the female, like HGTV, the female picks the one that she likes best. And they lay their eggs in that hole, that little hole in the sand. And that is their nest. That's all they have, right? So even if you're the most well-intentioned person on the beach, you just might step on it by accident. You don't mean to. That's why those are roped off, right? And that's one of the reasons why they're endangered, because they're just so vulnerable, because that scrape is all they have. So you just want to be mindful of those when you're in any of these places. The whole point is to take care of birds, right? So I was treated when I went out Lot M to this whimbrel. This is another kind of shorebird. This bird will fly 3,000 miles at least nonstop. Many of these birds will migrate over open ocean at night. It's really astounding. And so you're migrating at night because you're trying to avoid predators, right? But then that's why they also say to turn your lights out, especially right now, it's peak migration season. So you want to turn your lights out so that you don't confuse birds on their journey. And you want to reduce those window clings, or window collisions, right? You can put up window clings to help reduce the collisions. And so this whimbrel you'll see has adapted with its really, really long bill to eat these like sand crabs, which is pretty cool, and that's what's in its mouth. There's a really small picture, too, of a male long-tailed duck. And that's there to remind me to tell you that in addition to nature being everywhere, you do not have to wait for spring migration to see birds. There are birds year-round, beautiful birds, if you don't mind braving the cold and you have the right jacket, for you to see in Jersey. And so we call it weird duck season, if you're a bird nerd. And so weird duck season is all winter long. And there's fantastic weird ducks everywhere. And Sandy Hook is a great spot for these. So that's also why I bring this spot up. What makes Sandy Hook so great? We talk a lot about barrier islands and like migrant traps, right? And so if these birds are migrating over open ocean, they really, really need a snack, like really bad. And they're going to drop as soon as they see land. This is what happens in Cape May, Island Beach State Park, and other like barrier islands and peninsulas that we have across the coast. And so that's why you'll see so many birds on Sandy Hook at one time. There's also so many different habitats. So if you are a specialist bird or a coastal obligate, I love the beach. I consider myself a coastal obligate. I'm sure many of you consider yourselves coastal obligates as well. You have specialized habitat here, and then you have your bayside beaches and marshes. You have your oceanside beaches. You have the holly forest, and you have fields. You have all of these different habitats with which you can see birds, and that's what makes Sandy Hook such a great spot. There's also seals. The seals are gone, but they are there in the wintertime at low tide by the Coast Guard. So if birds aren't your thing, harbor seals are really, really cute. They haul out. They use Sandy Hook as a haul out spot, a migratory spot on their way to where they're going. And so it's really, really fun, highly interactive. You can hear them like bark at each other. They're very rolly sea puppies. They're very, very fun. Okay. So we're going a little north. So Richard DeCourt Park is our next stop. This is in the Meadowlands. So this is a super Jersey moment, right? So when you go to DeCourt Park, if any of you have been up here, you got the American Dream Mall up there. You have the traffic, the air traffic from the airport. In this particular park, you will hear New Jersey Transit. There's a train that runs through it. And you can see the city. And then you can also hear the New Jersey Turnpike. So you have everything. There are fantastic birds here still. So this will very quickly dispel the myth that you, again, need to be out in that like Yosemite, Yellowstone, like wilderness. Like what is wilderness, right? This is wilderness too, right? This is on a reclaimed landfill. Again, super Jersey. And so it's been cleaned up. But there's a ton of rodents that utilize the landfill because there's a lot to eat, right? So there's a ton of raptors that are eating the rodents. So if you go to DeCourt Park, you could see bald eagles, you could see northern harriers, you could see American kestrels, Cooper's hawks, all kinds of things because there's just so much for them to eat, right? So again, we're trying to dispel some of these myths. The bird that's in the center here is a red-tailed hawk, has the diagnostic belly band. Other hawks, their streaking starts earlier. Only red-tailed hawks does it have that belly band like that. They are all over DeCourt Park. And plus the sunrise and sunset is really pretty. And there's a marsh trail that this picture on the far right is depicting that has, if you are familiar with birds, there's nesting least bitterns here, which are fairly uncommon in the state. And it's very surprising to see them in such an urban area, right? Pretty cool. And it's full of marsh wrens this time of year. It's really fun. So I would highly recommend DeCourt Park. And again, this is a great spot. Many of the spots that I have in this presentation are here because of things like the Central Park effect, right? There's only so much open space, and so this is where they're going. And so decor up in the Meadowlands, now that there's all of these, you have MetLife up there, you got all kinds of things going on. This natural area is one of the few places that birds can go. There's a huge rookery here of snowy and great egrets, and all kinds of black-crowned and yellow-crowned night herons too. Many of you may be familiar with Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge. It's one of 3 national wildlife refuges that we have here in New Jersey. We also have Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge and Walk Hill River National Wildlife Refuge, which is up in Sussex County. All 3 are excellent. There's also Brig, for any of the old heads. The old birders like to call it Brig. I still call it Brig too. This is an excellent spot. This is a young peregrine falcon that's utilizing an osprey nest while the osprey's not home. Osprey is in South America from October, November to March. And so if you go to Brig, you'll see a lot of other raptors utilizing their nesting platforms in that time frame. Brig is a really, really great spot because it's auto birding. So if it's raining, you don't really feel well, you're not feeling particularly social, totally like whatever the reason, you can get in your car and you can drive the 8-mile wildlife drive loop. And you can see fantastic birds through this. Kind of like Sandy Hook, there's a lot of different habitats, so there's a lot of different birds that you can see. And for whatever reason, birds are not as afraid of cars as they are of people like walking close to them. So you can use your car as a blind, and you can get better photos and better like looks in your binoculars or just with your face of birds, because for whatever reason they're just not as afraid of your car. And so this was shot, I took this picture just in that way, in that very way, just from my car with the window rolled down. The smaller photo is a great blue heron. So this is a little bit of a drive. It's down in Galloway. It's only 20 minutes from AC. So if you're anything like me and you have an intersection of your personalities, you can go to Brig and then you can go to AC afterwards and you get everything. So it's a really good spot. Another spot that's pretty close to here is Lake of Lilies in Point. If you're familiar with the Manasquan Inlet, this is right by there. And so you can actually do double duty on both, especially in the wintertime. Like we talked about, all those weird ducks are there. There's lots of common loons and mergansers in the inlet. And then a little bit further inland is Lake of Lilies in a residential area. It's this cute little lake in a neighborhood. So many good birds utilize this year-round. This is a male hooded merganser with his crest displaying. This is a spark bird for one of my friends, and a spark bird is the bird that got you interested in birding. So once you know what a spark bird is, almost everybody has one. Mine, like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is a great blue heron. So I would encourage you to think about your spark bird. The smaller picture is a tundra swan, not to be confused with a mute swan, which has the orange bill, which you see very, very often. They're invasive, so they were introduced from Europe. People wanted their lawns to be more ornate. So why not put a living creature on your lawn? And so they were brought over, and then they kind of expanded because they weren't part of the food chain. And so they're very pretty. They're super aggressive. They're just as aggressive as geese. If you see a swan make that pretty heart shape with its back, do not take a picture. You maybe want to get out of the way. Like bad things are coming, And so, but it's not their fault. We did that, right? We introduced them. So a lot of people like to blame birds. People blame brown-headed cowbirds. They blame European starlings. European starlings are here because a bunch of Shakespeare nerds wanted Central Park to be like Shakespeare. So you can blame literature for that one, but don't blame the birds. It's really not their fault. So again, I would encourage a visit to Lake of Lilies. You can get really close looks at really great things. Okay. I promise I won't go on forever with spots, and there's other things coming. But Duke Farms is fantastic. Duke Farms is up in Hillsborough. For any students that are in the room that are interested in pursuing like environmental studies like I did, Duke Farms is a world-class environmental education center. They run fantastic programming, and they have internships and volunteer opportunities that are available. I'm a proud graduate of their Master Ecologist class, which is hybrid. So you could go up to you don't have to go up to Hillsborough the whole time. They run virtual part of it. Great resume builder. They also have an orchid greenhouse with orchids from all over the world. The estate namesake, Doris Duke, had more money than God and loved flowers. And so there's this orchid greenhouse with flowers from all over the world. Some of them smell like chocolate, and they're all different colors. It's pretty cool. It's like Willy Wonka in real life, so that's cool to check out. The birds that are here, and Duke Farms is super accessible. So if yourself or any of your friends or family might need a flat path that's paved to enjoy nature, because we should talk about that, right? Not everywhere, nature is everywhere, but not everywhere is accessible to us for a number of reasons. And Duke Farms is fantastic because, again, it's a flat slope and it's paved. So you can bring anyone who might be a wheelchair user to Duke Farms and they can enjoy nature too. Far left is a male American goldfinch. It's our state bird. I think that our state bird should be the Carolina wren, though, which is on the far right, because they're really loud and tiny, which I think describes us as a state. And in the middle is a male American kestrel. Okay. Conistonk Point is in Union Beach. This is a willet or won't it. It's also named for how it sounds. And there's also a semi-palmated plover, has a single choker, not a double choker like the killdeer. Semi-palmated is a really fancy way to say semi-webbed. So not all the way duck-like, but if you're walking on mud flats, you might need a little bit more traction, and so their little feet are like semi-webbed. And this is a great spot for shorebirds, especially this time of year. There's osprey nesting platforms. You can see seaside sparrow, you can see marsh wren, clapper rails, all kinds of things. And one of my favorites, so there are so few wildlife spectacles for us to see, right? Like big numbers of birds or other wildlife are kind of hard to come by now because of habitat loss and biodiversity loss, right? So there's only so many things that you can see, like, again, a spectacle. One of my favorite spectacles that you can see in New Jersey is at Mercer Meadows in Mercer County. This also happens at Duke Farms. But in the wintertime, we have a species of owl called a short-eared owl that migrates through. And for any ecology students, what's really fascinating about this is that the short-eared owl occupies the same niche as another raptor, which is very unusual to have two apex predators in the same habitat, right? Like, how does that work? So the bird in the middle is a northern harrier, marsh hawk. They can exist because of like niche partitioning, essentially. So the northern harrier is the diurnal raptor. It's there during the day. And then the short-eared owl, as it's migrating through, is the nocturnal raptor. So now you can both eat the same thing in the same spot, but not compete with each other. And so what's really amazing is that you can visit Mercer Meadows at sunset, and you can watch like the changing of the guard. And you can watch the hawks come in and the owls come out. It's really, really cool. My shameless plug is that on Beachy Birder Adventures, we saw fun fact, a group of owls is called a parliament. We saw a parliament of short-eared owls on one of the walks that I did, and then we saw like half a dozen northern harriers on the other walk. So this is really cool, so I would highly recommend checking this out. Again, like a spectacle, right? How interesting. Okay, and these are not baby dinosaurs, or they are. So these are great egrets, okay? And then there's a yellow crowned night heron on its nest. This is the Ocean City Welcome Center. On our theme of nature is everywhere, this is on the off-ramp right off the parkway, the exit for Ocean City. You are on the off-ramp and the rookery is right there. So what's really amazing about this is that you can have a bird's eye view of the rookery from above it, and you can see into the nests of either the chicks or the eggs, depending on the time in the summertime that you go, without disturbing the birds. This is a full sensory experience. You will smell this, you will see it, and you will hear it. There are tricolored heron, little blue heron, white and glossy ibis, the egrets, night herons, everybody. Everybody is here. It's a really, really cool spot. I recognize that it's a little bit of a drive, but it's an unbelievable. This is another spectacle. Okay, so now that we know where to go, what can happen when we get there? What's really interesting I've found in birding, and in birding with my digital camera, I have a little point and shoot camera. I do not have a fancy lens. It's not my jam. But because of the way that the technology has really, really improved, I took this photo. This is a brant, the goose on the left. Looks like a Canada goose, but smaller. Completely different species, they're migratory. And hopefully you can see there's a K and a 5 on the flags of this bird in black and white. And then there's also a little bit of another piece of jewelry. There's a federal band on this bird as well. And so we band birds to learn more about migration and where they're going. With digital cameras and, again, the technology improving, you too, when you go birding, if you see a banded bird, can snap a picture. You can go to the Bird Banding Lab website and report your banded bird. It's really great. It's through the U.S. Geological Survey. I have no idea why it's the U.S. Geological Survey and not the Fish and Wildlife Service, but it's for another conversation. And you get a little certificate, and it tells you where the bird was banded, how old it was, or is, and a lot of other information. And so it used to be, and I promise I'll explain this more, but it used to be that you had to recapture this bird to be able to report the flag. So you can imagine that it would be a very, very small subset of the population of biologists that band birds as their profession that would be able to recite these birds. Now we have some of this power because of our cameras to be able to help get even more data to protect birds. This American oyster catcher on the top, I saw 3 different times on Sandy Hook. Hopefully you can see that it says AJP. I was so excited every time that I saw this bird. This bird flies back and forth between Jersey and Georgia, which is like, I looked at it, it's like 700 miles. And it's just this little, the bill is so big, it looks like it should just fall over. It doesn't even look like it should stand up straight, let alone be able to fly from Jersey to Georgia, right? And it's like 7 years old, so it's done that 7 times, at least, right? Maybe 14, back and forth. And I was able to gather that information because I reported it because I took the picture, right? And the osprey is a little bit harder to see. That's a red band. M13 is this bird. And through the New Jersey Osprey Project, I will share that all Jersey ospreys have a red band. So even if you can't see the number, if you can see the red band, you know that that bird was hatched in New Jersey. And the osprey just came back, so if you'll allow me, like just a second, I do have an osprey spiel, because I love them very much. And so the osprey just returned. They're lucky birds, so they come back to New Jersey around St. Patrick's Day, and they come here to make more osprey. They are fairly monogamous. They are mated pairs, but you may find it interesting, especially if you're married or partnered, that in the fall, when they're done making more ospreys, they migrate separately. And they spend the winter focusing on self-care, and then they come back together in March, which is probably one of the reasons why they can be monogamous, right? So they usually stick around until at least Halloween, at the very outside Thanksgiving. This is changing with the climate, but that's sort of kind of what's happening. You'll see that the osprey has a eye stripe, that black eye stripe. It's diagnostic, we call that, which means that it can only be an osprey if it's a black and white raptor and it has that eye stripe. So if I say black and white bird of prey, you might also think bald eagle. But bald eagles don't have that eye stripe. And they have that because they are expert fishermen, right? And not unlike football players who will put the, they'll put the black under their eyes for games to help with glare. That's what the osprey has as well, so that there's less glare from the ocean, from the salt water when you're trying to catch a fish. Speaking of catching a fish, their legs are longer than a bald eagle's legs, which is one of the reasons why they're better fishermen or fisher birds than bald eagles, because they can dive further down into the water. They have 4 toes on their talons, and they can move them. So they can have 2 in the front and 2 in the back, or 3 in the front and 1 in the back. And that's why if I'm sure you've seen them around, they're almost always carrying the fish head first, right? And that's so they can stay aerodynamic, and that's because they've moved their toes around to be able to do that. They eat almost exclusively menhaden or bunker, like 99%, although I was on a walk on Sandy Hook, and my friend got a picture. It had a dogfish shark in its talons. It was very exciting. But if you catch the fish with your talons in the water, and you can't get out of the water, you get waterlogged trying to come out, does you absolutely no good, right? And so you'll see an osprey has M-shaped wings, like terns, who are also coming back now, to be able to get out of the water with the fish, because you want to get out of the water with your sushi dinner, right? So this bird is literally evolved. It's built to catch fish, which is pretty cool. They are also, 75% of the time, it works every time, they catch a fish 3 out of 4 chances, which is unheard of in nature to be that successful. You will often see bald eagles near osprey because the bald eagle is klepto and is trying to steal the osprey's fish that it worked hard for. So I root for the osprey. Anyway, so I hope that my little spiel, because they're everywhere, right? I hope that, yes, please. So I think it's birdbandinglab.gov or .org. But if you Google bird banding lab, don't quote me on the website. If you Google bird banding lab, it will come up. It might be reportofbird.gov. I promise it will come up. And you get a little green certificate. It's really cool. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do you get jewelry on a bird? So you band them. So this is a northern saw-whet owl. It weighs the same as a stick of butter. And they migrate through in the wintertime. Full disclosure, they banned, and I promise I will explain. They banned northern saw-whet owls in New Jersey. These photos are from Pennsylvania. Please let me keep talking. At a Girl Scout camp in the boonies. And my friend Sandy has a permit for this. You cannot do this. You cannot do this without a permit. And you cannot obtain a permit without a scientific question, right? So anyone who is a trained biologist who is interested in this can go through a master bander and apprentice with them and volunteer for quite some time to be able to get the certification to have your own banding station. And again, you have to have a question to have the banding station. My friend Sandy, her question was, do northern saw-whet owls migrate through Pennsylvania? A lot of people told her that they didn't. And she felt strongly that the birds migrated through. So that was her question. She has banded 12,000 northern saw-whet owls in Pennsylvania. So the answer to her question is yes. But we didn't know that until we did this, right? And so what you do is you set up a nylon net. It's very soft, big, long net in the woods or wherever your desired habitat is that has bird pockets, okay? Promise, everything's super soft. Also, everybody who is doing bird banding really, really, really cares about birds and is devoted quite a bit of their time to this, right? And has asked a scientific question. So you have the really long net. You set up an audio lure. So you call the birds in. They come check it out. They hit the net. They fall into the bird pocket. They're okay. They're just uncomfortable, right? And you pick them out. You extract them from the net. Trained volunteers. And there's a whole process. You do the head first, and then you do the feet, and then you do the wing to make sure that it's as safe as possible to get the birds out. That's how you end up with an owl in a bag, right? The top photo. Then you bring the bird and you hold the bird for about 10 minutes. That's how long we want to keep the bird at the bird banding station. Any longer than that, we'll let the bird go. If the bird is showing any signs of stress, birds pant like dogs. They'll have their beak open. We let them go. Their eyes are closing, you let them go. We really want data on migration of birds and conservation of those areas, but not so much as to harm a bird, right? So any signs of stress, they're gone. But if they're doing all right, given the circumstances, we will take their weight. We'll do a wing measurement and a tail measurement, which is often how you're able to determine the sex of the bird. You will also obviously put the band on them. The band is put on with pliers that are a very specific size. The band itself is a very specific size. There's a book called the Pile Guide, and it has different size bands for different size birds, so that you make sure that the band is loose, but not too loose on the bird's leg, so it does not harm its daily activities. The rule of thumb, including for the GPS transmitters that you might see on birds too, no more than 5% of the body weight. Once you get above 5% of the body weight, it starts to disrupt the bird. And so, little warblers, little tiny warblers are 0A is their band size, and then a woodpecker would be a 3, right? And there's all kinds of things in between. And so the bird gets its fancy piece of jewelry that has a serial number on it that corresponds now to that particular bird. So you can see how cool a digital camera is, because before they started to put the bigger flags on the birds too, in addition to the federal silver band, the only way that you could see what's going on with that bird would be to recapture it in the net. So imagine how amazing it is to be able to see that oyster catcher on Sandy Hook and know that it's coming between here and Georgia without having to do all of this, right? It's pretty cool. And so we made a stop at Benjamin Moore. You'll see there's paint swatches in this photo. That is what those are. Another question that Sandy was asking, because she answered her first scientific question, another question that she had was, does the shade of yellow of the eye correspond to the age of the bird? And so we were using paint swatches, because you need to standardize it, right, to match the color yellow to track that data as well. Does anybody have any questions about this?
What happens if you catch a different species of bird in that net?
So it depends. It's a great question. If you catch a different species in the net, sometimes you'll band it. Sometimes other owls will come to the northern saw-whet banding station. And as long as that biologist has the band size for that owl and has the permit for that owl, you can ban that species too. If you don't have the proper permit or the proper band size, why would you keep the bird? You know what I mean? Besides take a nice look at it, maybe take a picture and let it go. But I'll show you some stations you want to catch. You want to be able to look at as many birds as possible. And so it depends on what you're studying. There is a project called MAPS that looks at habitat. And so this is on Sandy Hook. And this is a little collection of just some of the birds that we banded on Sandy Hook. And this is, again, related to the habitat. So my friend Tom Brown was looking at the difference in habitat before and after Sandy. And so if you know Sandy, Superstorm Sandy, not to be confused with Sandy Hook. And so a lot of trees have come down on the Hook. The deer are everywhere, right? So they're really eating the understory, and the birds are responding in the way that nature does, right? And so we're seeing different types of songbirds that are corresponding to that habitat. And so this is an example of there's literally a tackle box full of different size bands so that we can be prepared depending on what species comes into the net. And we're running different types of audio lures for this. It wouldn't just be one like it is for the northern saw-whet owl, because your target is one owl. So the bird on the left is a female northern flicker. Males have a black mylar or black whiskers on their face, and you can see her face does not have that, so that's the female. Beautiful bird. It has everything. It has polka dots. It's yellow. It has a heart, a red heart on its back. Really cool bird. the top right bird is the only picture of my hand too, and you can tell because my nails are painted. But that is a male black-throated blue warbler, and then a Canada warbler on the bottom. And so these are all on Sandy Hook. These are all right here. You do not have to go to Yellowstone. They're all right here. Yes?
How far does the audio bring them in?
So that's a great question. We don't know.
100 yards, 10 miles?
Well, it depends on how far the audio will go, but the birds, since they're migrating through, they could have been there for a couple days. They could have just gotten there. Sometimes we recapture birds that are hanging out on Sandy Hook, and we'll make a note that, they stopped by 12 hours ago and now they're back, and we let them go very quickly. But it's very difficult to measure how far and for how long, right? We also change the species. So from day to day, there might be different birds that are calling out from the audio lure, which would be another variable that would bring in other birds that may have been close, they may have been far, but now they're coming in not because they're close or far, but because there's a different bird sound. You know what I'm saying? So this is it's fantastic. And this is something that if you're interested in volunteering, usually you start out with data collection and then you can move on to extracting. But you can contact your local Audubon chapter. I also have business cards and stickers for everybody. We're almost done. You're doing great. But you can email me, and I'd be happy to potentially get you in touch if this is something that you're interested in pursuing. Okay? It's pretty cool. The hours are really weird, but it's really awesome. Okay. So just to recap, this is a sora. This is a rail. It's a type of marsh bird. Looks like a marsh chicken. I saw this in Long Branch, right? So, in Jackson Woods 3 days ago. I was really, really excited. So some helpful tips just to bring it back to birding since we're getting near the end here. You can use your phone. If you have a pair of binoculars, you can hold your phone up and take a picture through the binoculars using your phone. So you don't need a fancy camera to take pictures of birds. You can also download, it's called Audio Record 7. There's all kinds of recording apps that can amplify the microphone that exists on your phone, and you can record bird sound as well. Merlin is a really great free app. Many of you may already use Merlin. It's a free bird identification app from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They also have something that I like to affectionately call Bird Shazam, because through machine learning, you can turn on the sound ID and it will tell you all the birds that are calling near you. It is a robot, so it's not always right, but it's really, really, really cool, and it's usually right. There are great organizations that you can bird with. In addition to your local Audubon chapters, there's also chapters of Feminist Bird Club and all kinds of regionally based bird groups that you can get involved in. Birding is for everybody. There's really cool groups that are popping up for everyone. And you can use eBird, which is another app from Cornell Lab of Ornithology, to make checklists of the birds you see. If you want to graduate, get real nerdy, super fun, very addictive. But you can also do research and find hotspots close to you. So again, you don't have to go far. You can use eBird to find hotspots near your house. This is like a commercial for Cornell, but Cornell also has their All About Birds website, and their overview page for each bird species has a little section called Cool Facts, which they are cool facts, so that's fun. And then they offer Bird Academy courses, which you could catch me in the pandemic. This is what I did. This is how I got better as a bird guide and as a walk leader. I took a lot of classes through Bird Academy. American crows, if you want to know, come up after, but they do really weird stuff. I took a whole class on crows. There's also a Facebook group, for those of you who are on Facebook, that's run by the American Birding Association that's called What's This Bird? And if you have a crappy cell phone picture from the bird that's in your yard or in your neighborhood and you're not sure what it is, you can post it on this Facebook group and the experts at the ABA will identify it for you, which is pretty cool. The other thing you could do, of course, is come on a Beachy Birder adventure. You knew I was going to pitch it at some point, right? So here it is. The Picture on the far left is us at Edwin B. Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge. This is on the Eco Leads Trail at the beginning of the refuge. This is before Wildlife Drive. This is before you start auto birding in your car. And there's usually clapper rails, seaside sparrow, marsh wren, barn swallows, tree swallows, all kinds of cool stuff. The top right is with some members of the Wall Township Environmental Committee. We were across the street from the off-leash dog park in Wall Township, if you're familiar. Saw a lot of great stuff. And then this is DeCourt Park with Julian, one of my youngest bird nerds. This is the landfill spot in the Meadowlands. We were just there a little while ago. So you can join us. Like I said, birding is for everybody. If you want to come on a walk, you're welcome. And you're already a birder. You don't need to have anything else. So I got a lot going on because it's spring migration. But I do have a walk on Mother's Day on Sandy Hook. It's free. If you'd like to come, you can bring your mom, you can bring your friend, you can bring whoever you want. It doesn't have to be your mom. We are meeting at Guardian Park on Sandy Hook. I'm going to the Rookery too. If anyone was intrigued by the Ocean City Rookery, would love to have you, and we can ID the birds together. And then I have a walk coming up at Estelle Manor Park, which is in Mays Landing. If you're familiar at all with like prothonotary warbler or yellow-throated warbler, lots of really cool swamp obligate, Jersey swamp obligate, like Bruce, there as well. And so if you have any questions, you can ask me, the bird nerd. I'm on Instagram. I have my business cards with my email address, but you could also take this down. The QR code is not your style. No worries. You could just go to lindsaymcnamara.com. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. We have a fairly large piece of property, and we've always seen just a red-tailed hawk, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But one day, it was laying in the woods on its back, wings spread out, and I was thinking maybe it was bird flu, but maybe not. I called Monmouth County and told them about it, and then it was gone. So I don't know if the fox got it or what. But what would make it fall? It was on its back.
It's hard to say. It could be roticide. So when people use like rat poison, right, to kill whatever is in their home or in their business, some of the way that the poison works is the rodents actually they walk out of the building, they leave the building to pass away, and when they do that, now you have hawks and other raptors that will come in and will eat that, and then you have bioaccumulation. So don't use roticide.
So disappointed because he's been around for a long time.
I know, it's so sad. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. I hope maybe it just stunned itself and maybe it flew away. We could go with that story too. Unclear. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Are there any birds that don't migrate? In other words, they always in the same place?
So that's a really good question because we're ecologists, right? So the answer, of course, is it depends. So for example, yes and no. There are short distance migrants. So they would stay in Jersey. They might even stay in the same neighborhood, but they'll move around a little bit within that space. They're still technically migratory, but it's not like as expansive as some of these other birds, right? There's also super fascinating. So it's peak spring migration right now, right? So we have it's like yellow bird season. We have all the really bright warblers, neotropical migrants going from pole to pole, all kinds of things that are happening. When the resident birds see that the migratory birds are coming into a place like Jackson Woods, maybe the robins are going to move over and they're going to go somewhere else for a couple months. Let the warblers do their thing. When the warblers leave, the robins come back. So it's really fascinating. So there's like birds that are migratory because of the migratory birds. What's interesting though with a species like American robin or red-winged blackbird, you can see them in New Jersey year-round, but that doesn't mean that they're here year-round, necessarily that individual robin. You could be seeing robins that have stayed the whole time. You could be seeing another robin that came from the south Could be seeing another robin that came from the north. Like, all of these migrations are happening concurrently. And so it's super interesting. So like when people are like, oh, the robins are back, they never left. But maybe they did. It depends. Yes?
Yeah, this is more of a comment than a question. I'm curious as to whether you've heard about this. I just happened to catch on the news last night, and they were talking about a vandal in some Massachusetts town, I think near the water. Which Massachusetts near the water? That was vandalizing cars, like a couple of...
Oh, the pileated woodpecker. That's the unofficial mascot of Beachy Birder Adventures. There's this really, really awesome, thank you. So there's a pileated woodpecker, kind of looks like Woody Woodpecker. They're really cool. You should look them up. Pileated, we could debate the Latin. We are at a community college, but however you say it, really big woodpecker that it's so awesome. It's just like pecking the crap out of people's cars and houses because it's sexy time. And so woodpeckers drum for territorial reasons and also to attract a mate. And so this male pileated woodpecker is just going all over the neighborhood to let all the ladies know that he's available. And nobody knows what to do about it because...
That it's looking at its reflection. I've seen a cat do this, like play, paw at a water dish because it sees its reflection. I love cats, but they haven't figured out that that's not another cat.
That's right.
So apparently this guy, they theorize, is competing with other males for the girls, and he sees himself in the window of the car, but it's,
Highly relatable to compete with yourself, right? Highly relatable. I think...
I actually have a follow-up question right to that. Is that like one bird who's going is like somewhere where he's not supposed to be, like pecking on or is it like sort of a collective thing where the birds have realized, hey, we can peck all this metal stuff and make really loud noises?
So as much as I would love for it to be kind of like the orca whales that are like doing a lot of crazy stuff, it's not like that. And the way to look at it, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the woodpecker is not in the wrong place that people are, right? And so it is likely one bird, and it's like territorial range. But it would be really cool if they all joined together.
I have one announcement and two questions.
Okay, alrighty.
My neighbor tells me that they have seen the first hummingbird.
Amazing. Tax day. Tax day is also hummingbird day.
Am I right? It's the males that come first?
Typically, the females wait for the males to get everything sorted, and then they come back.
So they're here, so we should be putting out their food, right? Next thing. I got an email about 2 weeks ago from a friend saying, don't put out any food for birds because you're helping spread avian flu. What's your response?
My response is to make sure your bird feeder is clean.
Which I did point out, but even if it's clean, it will get infected very easily.
It's a personal choice. There's also been, folks may have heard too about the ordinance that like you weren't allowed to have a bird feeder, right, out. Some people may have heard about this. A lot of people, like, Lindsay, you must be enraged. I was like, no, it's for the bears. So like this is very common in Western states that during a certain period of time in the year, you're asked to bring your bird feeder inside at night because it attracts bears. And so that's what, I know that's not your question, but related, like that's what that is about. And I absolutely condone, especially in Northwest Jersey, if you want to put out bird feeders, that's awesome, but you really should take them inside at night.
I'll follow up to that. Last year, my wife and I came back from Mexico. We'd been away for 2 weeks. A friend took care of filling up the bird feeders for us in the backyard. We got home, everything looked good, but the next morning, 2 bird feeders that were on really strong hooks, the shepherd hooks, metal hooks, bent at the ground 90 degrees. The bird feeders were strewn around the garden, broken, shattered. Our backyard's all fenced off, the bird feeders are in the backyard. A neighbor called up shortly after we realized this and said, there's a bear in the neighborhood, we're in Marlboro.
Okay.
And this bear, though, was able to fly over the fencing that we have. We're in a new area. Just to follow up. on that.
Absolutely.
Next thing, new gardens.
Yes.
New gardens. When was the last time you were at that orchid house?
When? Last year?
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. I belong to an orchid society, and a number of years ago, we were involved in auctioning off all of their orchids, because I'm going out of business.
We might not be talking about the same place, because Duke Farms definitely has plenty of orchids still.
They did. I haven't been there for a few years, I was at before the pandemic.
Got it. They may have acquired more.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
I would like to have a pet owl at some point.
Cool.
Can it be domesticated in the,
I wouldn't. Yeah, they belong outside. It's just my personal opinion. Yeah. But you do you. But I'm not a huge fan of the pet trade in general. Dogs and cats are a little different, but try to keep everything where it's supposed to be. But I would love to have a hedwig if I could, but I think that if you're interested in interacting with owls, I would highly recommend volunteering at the Raptor Trust. Or another wildlife rehabilitation center where you could work with the educational birds that for whatever reason have been healthy to a certain extent, but something happened so they're not healthy enough to be released back into the wild, and so they're like ambassadors to the public. You'll see, the people that come in and they have like owls on their arm or what have you, and maybe that's a way to get involved. The Raptor Trust is fantastic. Yes.
Just a couple quick things. You mentioned 3 wildlife refuges in New Jersey. In February, March, I was with another Audubon group at the Wapkill Wildlife
very
Refuge
cool.
up there in Sussex County.
Yeah.
Again, the little owls, and then just at sunsets, like the one guy's directing, okay, all you northern harriers, leave, and all the owls came in. At one time in our scope was like 6 owls, just
Amazing.
fluttering, spectacular. And they mentioned about some weird things in the Everglades. There was a group of vultures that started attacking cars, pulling the windshield wiper and bumper parts for some reason. The rangers didn't know what to do other than to spray some kind of chemical, but they were curious, and they were just taking it. They weren't using it for nest, it was just,
I'm the president of the Vulture Appreciation Society, so I'm the wrong person to tell that to, because I'm like, go, somebody did something, but how fascinating, right?
and one thing about the vultures, if you learn all about birds, they have the bird sounds, listen to a vulture. It's like
Wow.
a strange hiss that's spectacular.
Yeah. Barn owl is really cool too, and all herons kind of sound like a pig, real weird. Again, in your infinite free time. You can look it up.
One thing you mentioned about the woodpeckers, about drumming, you could actually affiliate it. It has a long drum that starts soft and goes high and lowers, and you can tell a lot of times the species of the owl by the drum in itself.
You absolutely can. What's really cool too about woodpeckers is that if you think about it, they have a jackhammer on their face, right? So if you are like constantly pounding your face into a tree and you've evolved to do so, like how's that working for you, right? And so the answer is pretty cool. If you're familiar with bubble tape, I don't know if there's any 90s babies in the room, but like the coiled up bubble gum, right? A pileated woodpecker in particular, their skull is in the very back of their head, and their tongue wraps around in front of it and is a cushion, so that you can use your face hammer and not hurt your skull. Super cool. Super cool. I forgot that fact. Thank you for the reminder.
One last course, they mentioned
Yeah.
hummingbirds, they come back. Cape Bay's a great place. Used to be Lehman's running gardens down there, it was spectacular. But why do hummingbirds hum?
Well, I think it's more that they're moving so fast, right? Or is this a joke? I'm sorry.
They don't know the
Okay.
words.
They don't know. It is. I'm very gullible. I like your joke. I'm sorry. I was like, okay, oh no, it's the first question. I don't know. Oh. Amazing, amazing. Hummingbirds are also. I'll tell you that I know things still. Hummingbirds are the only bird species that can move their wings backwards. It's like a helicopter is modeled after how a hummingbird can move. So.
Great.
That's it. Thank you so much.
how's it going? I'm a Brookdale student here. My name is Matthew, and I just came here to read for the Sierra Club right here about how important that your action is needed, and to write a letter to your New Jersey legislator. So what's going on is in New Jersey, automobile collisions with wildlife cost $150 million a year. And the Senate of New Jersey has already passed unanimously a nonpartisan bill that pays $90,000 for New Jersey agencies to lower the current tremendous annual costs of car collisions of wildlife. And with this bill, it will, one, identify the roadways with high mortality areas to create culverts and overpasses, and two, include these changes in upfront planning for road construction and repair. So this bill needs your nudge to push it through the New Jersey Assembly, and it will literally take like 2 minutes. You could just point your cell phone camera at the QR code on the table, which you can get right there in the back right there, the little loose leaf paper where the QR code will be shown. And there on the website, Sierra Club table, you add your name and address on the pop-up letter to your New Jersey Assembly member. And with your input, this will help get the bill passed to prevent future collisions and wildlife death. So that's everything. Appreciate it, y'all.
If anyone was too shy to ask their question in front of everyone, right.